you know, right?
Yeah, buddy.
And I know he know that, ladies. And so we're going to talk about some stuff this morning, Kalan. And I want you to jump in because you're the only man in the room. And I want us to talk about, we're talking about relationships today. And we want you to talk before you walk. And that means you need to talk it out before you walk it out. And it's going to talk about relationships. We get a lot of men call in every week, Kalan,
we do.
about, what's going on in the world. But I want to hear from them, like, what's going on in relationships. Like, so what's some of the mistakes that even women make? And you don't have to say your name when you call in. And then what's some of the mistakes that men make?
Yeah.
And so we have our guest with us today. It's Catherine Mutes, is a licensed professional counselor supervisor in Houston, Texas, when she resides with her husband and a son. And one of her things is that she believes that marriages can be built strong, and even the rockiest marriages can be mended. So she's saying, let's take this journey. So good morning and welcome to Impact Houston Live.
Good morning, Wanda and Kalan. I'm glad to be here with you guys.
Thank you for being here and coming and hanging out so early this Saturday morning.
Early in the morning.
So let's do some talking.
Yeah.
So you're talking about, let's do some talking, and you talk about talk before you walk, and so we know that Tuesday is Valentine's Day.
Tuesday is Love Day.
And Love Day. So let's talk about relationships, and what do you mean by talk before you walk? I know walking is mean marriage, but some people walk into relationships as well.
Absolutely.
So let's dive straight into it. What has been the emphasis of just the title of your campaign?
Absolutely. The Talk Before the Walk is a book that I wrote a couple of years ago, and it was based on a lot of the relationships that I ran into, both in my professional life and in my personal life. And one of the things that started happening was people who had been married would start having these thoughts of, oh, I wish I had known this, or I wish I had known that, or I sure would have done something differently if I would have known this about the person that I was about to get attached to. And so I started thinking, well, golly, if people are now on the back end figuring out there's things that they should have been thinking about on the front end, but a lot of times we don't think about those things, right? We're so in love, we're like, oh, this is the best
Is
thing.
it love or in lust? Which one is it?
Sometimes it's a little bit of both. And so you have, but what happens is we have those are the moments when we start making decisions about our future, when we're having those butterflies and, we're on the phone all night. No, you hang up first. No, you hang up first, right? Y'all did that knowing you got to go to work in the morning.
I remember that. Stay that way.
So sometimes we make those decisions based on those feelings. And then when we jump in and we say, okay, well, let's get married. Let's build this life together. And then we start finding out things about one another that, because we were so in love and we were dealing with that piece of it, that we didn't put any of our thinking process in on it. And now we're realizing, oh my goodness, who is this person and what have I done? So this book helps to open up those conversations about some of those things. So we know Valentine's Day is Tuesday, right? American Express estimates that 6 million people will get engaged for Valentine's Day.
Wow.
6 million. Now that doesn't mean that all 6 million of them are going to get
That's
married.
like 2% of the population.
Right. So we have a large percent of people that are getting engaged for Valentine's Day. And again, those decisions are often made in the in love phase, where we're feeling all mushy and, oh, this is the one, and all those kind of things, right? And so then we move forward and we start planning these weddings. And so the Knot just came out with a report that says Americans spend approximately $35,000 on a wedding. $35,000. More than some people make in a whole year. And so you walk into these things, and we put so much preparation into the wedding, but don't put enough emphasis on the relationship.
Absolutely.
And building strength in our relationship and a strong foundation for when it's time for us to take that walk, because the walk is beyond the wedding.
That's very fantastic. A lot of people just don't want to hear that, right? I counsel a few young guys, and one of my mentees. He just got engaged about a month and a half ago or so. So we were out and just having a conversation, and I was telling him that, he said, so what I need to know? I said, okay, wow, what an open-ended question. And there's no real right or wrong answer.
Absolutely.
But because every relationship is different, has its own personality.
Absolutely.
I said, however, what you do need to understand is that do not put emphasis on the 14-minute ceremony.
Absolutely.
There's a 14-minute ceremony, and you and your fiance have to have that conversation.
Absolutely.
That it is a 14-minute ceremony, and you're trying to make 140 years together.
Absolutely.
You know, so I think oftentimes, especially when you're young and you're so impassioned and you're so, you know, ready to just dive in and be all in love and love it. And I love it. You know, I'm happily married, been together with my wife almost 10 years. And so, but that's just one piece of it.
Absolutely.
You know, and so it's really, really good that you say that, because a lot of our younger generation, my students that I speak to, who are in love and who are trying to get engaged, and you know, now they're thinking about the wedding. Like, I literally have students that are coming to class with the not books, and with the books, and you know, they're sitting and talking with me, and the guys are stressed out, like, man, I don't know how we're gonna pay them, you know. You're gonna pay for this,
and don't be fooled. It's not just the young generation. Yeah. I mean, we have some seasoned folks that are jumping in and jumping into relationships and jumping into marriage and haven't had serious conversations, just really serious conversations. And that doesn't mean that the conversations are going to, you know, the conversations aren't going to tell you everything that you need to know, but it's going to open up the dialogue between you and the person that you're going to marry.
Absolutely. So
that you know what you're walking into. And you can make the decision if, wait a minute, that might be a little bit too much for me, or no, I think I can deal with that, and being able to have that practice. And it's not just about the communication in general, because I hear people say, oh, we talk all the time, and you ask what they talk about. Oh, well, we talked about the game, or we talked about the kids. But it's not intentional conversations about the relationship.
Right.
And so this book really talks about getting into some intentional and sometimes some difficult conversations, things that we're scared to talk about and not interested in.
So why do we, and I say we, I'm talking about me right now, since I am the only fella in the room representing for the X and Y's. Why is it oftentimes, in your experience, professionally and even personally, if you will, that guys kind of shy back from the difficult conversations and just like, okay, I don't even feel like hearing it. I don't feel like hearing them out. I just
a lot of it is, I think a lot of it, Kalan, is training. I think we've come up in a society that kind of says, you know, you have to be strong, you have to be this, you have to be that. And so we spend so much time trying to fit into a mold that we don't get all the skills needed to be able to deal with those things that we need to deal with. And I don't think it's just a male thing. I mean, it takes two people in a relationship, and somebody's got to open up the lines of communication. And if both people are going, well, we're just going to walk and we in love and we happy and we're going to get married and life is going to be beautiful, that ain't quite how it go down. Right? So I'm going to tell you some of the things. So again, preparation for marriage begins with having intentional conversations. Intentional meaning purposeful, that we're really working on something. It's not just something to do and we're just hanging out, but really we're going somewhere. You know, I remember when my husband and I were dating, and one of the first conversations that we had about the dating relationship, because we were a little bit older when we started dating, was that I'm not trying to be somebody's girlfriend for the next 20 years. That ain't this. So if that's what you're looking for, we need to go on and move on.
So you're saying don't be afraid to set up your plan with that relationship. Don't be afraid to tell them what you're looking for, your expectations.
Absolutely.
When you first meet them, because I think that's the issue, that women are afraid to tell that man that. Because one of the things that I realized, if that's what you're feeling, then you need to say it. To me, I tell people, my friends say, oh, some things you just don't say up front because you'll run them off. I say, no, you say it up front, because if they were in it for wrong intentions, they won't be there.
Absolutely.
So if you tell them, so you're saying, so if you tell them up front, because I have a pastor and a wife friend of mine, he said when he went out with his wife, when he took her on the first date, he sat at the dinner table, he told her, I am not looking for a girlfriend. I'm looking for a wife. Absolutely. And if you want to be my wife and you want to work toward being my wife, then we can continue to date while we're preparing for our wedding. And they've been together almost 20 years, right? So, and I asked, I said, why did you say that? He said, because I was serious. I didn't have time to play. Absolutely. Because when you get into that long-lasting relationship, you start doing things that married couples are doing. You start sharing the bills, but you're not calling him or her your husband or your wife without the benefits. You start engaging in stuff you know you shouldn't be engaging, and then you trapped in it, right? So I applaud you. Say what you need to say up front. If you're not going to engage in extramarital relation activities. Before, you need to tell them, say, hey, I'm gonna tell you about me. I'm not a person that like to engage in extramarital activities. So if you're looking for someone to engage, and you're looking for a ride or die friend just to be there, to bump it, hit it, and quit it, I'm sorry, I'm not the one. If you need to get up from the table from the dinner right now, it's okay, and I'm okay with that.
Absolutely, and you give people the option, because you never know. You might run into the one who say, well, I'm cool with that.
I'm cool with that.
But you give people the option. But part of it is also us being real with ourselves. A lot of times we don't understand what our own expectations are, what our own boundaries are, what our own needs are. Let me tell you, the first question that I have in this book, the first question, and it wasn't originally the first question, and so let me just tell you, this is a book of questions. This is not a book of answers. This is a book of, you need to sit down and have these conversations. The first question is, do I really want to get married, or am I being coerced or forced into something that maybe it's not what I really want?
Can we pause there? Oh, because I have a lot of friends who feel that way, male and female for that matter, in this day and age, because it's very common now that a lot of guys that I'm coming in contact with are like, yo, I really want to be married. I always wanted to be married. Like, and so when they have those conversations, the upfront ones and the difficult ones, sometimes it feels, from what I'm hearing, is that there is an air of coercion there. There is some sort of,
the feeling that I have to, I'm supposed to be, I'm 30 years old now, so I'm supposed to be getting married. And, you can't do what everyone else wants you to do.
This is a great conversation. Let's go to the phone lines real quick. Caller, you're live on the air on Impact Houston Live. Talk to us.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
This is quite an interesting, spin on things, and I'm glad that the writer posed many questions, because answers vary from couple to couple. My wife and I have been married about we've been together since '94, however many years that is.
23.
But what we did. We went to counseling, and we to confront means to face the issue squarely without fear or judgment. Okay, so let's put some things on the table and just look at it. And during one part of it, she had to, step out to go to the restroom, and I asked the therapist about a few things that she put on the table, and he said, some things never change, some things only get worse. Okay, and you don't know going in. Okay, this little thing that bothers me a little bit is going to be a big ugly 8. If we continue to see each other, get married, and all this other stuff. Simple stuff like leave a newspaper on the bed. Okay, baby, would you please? When can you just throw it on the floor?
That's serious. He's serious.
Yeah. Well,
I know, the phones are lighting up. You're serious.
Well, over time, it really gets on your nerves, especially it does that. It's one of those things that, might never change, so I have to. So you learn to, we learn to roll and accept, things. Okay, this is another human being with their own thoughts, ideas, feelings, attitudes, and emotions, and their own past, and their own growing up, and so on and so forth. But relationships, I don't want to be long, but relationships come in stages. There's the first stage is romance and enchantment. It's all, honey, I love you, and all the sweetness and blah, 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 romance and enchantment. Then the next stage is where we see character defects, faults, and failings. Our humanness begins to show. Okay, disillusion. This man or woman is actually, not perfect. They do, they make human sounds in their sleep.
I want to comment on that right there, Cole, about these human sounds. We're going to go ahead and have it like that. And so, hey, caller, you're live. You're live on Impact Houston Live.
Good morning. I want to make a comment.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Well, I started listening to you probably in the middle of your show, so I don't know if you already covered it, but one of the things that, one of the factors that I think that should have been covered is the fact that depending on how your home life is, it's going to have a major influence on a lot of the things that you spoke about as far as relationships. I know when I grew up initially I was in a single parent home, and then I turned into a latchkey kid. So most of my life, I pretty much taught myself. My kids, I married their mom before they were born, and I've been with my children and their mother all their life. So their idea of what a marriage should be, or what they may want to be out of a marriage, have a lot to do with the relationship they see I have with their mother. And as they grew up, they had me to talk about it with them. They had their mom to talk about it with them. They had us in conjunction to talk about it with each other. And I think that has a great deal to do with.
And you know what? You are so right. And because when you think about the home environment, you think about building what people see.
Right.
What people see, right?
And so one of the things in the book I talk about the expectations. The very first chapter is all about your expectations. What does marriage mean to you? What did you see growing up? Who were your marriage role models? Because when you start talking about that and talking about who is it that you learned to be married from, it starts giving you some insight into your ideas about marriage. So if you watched your parents have affairs on one another, you may have grown up thinking that's just normal.
So you saying it's behavior based in the household? Are you saying it's behavior? Well, what I see is what I do?
Sometimes we can accept those things, or sometimes we reject those things. But what ends up happening as kids, they say more is caught than taught. And so I can tell you, your mama can tell you not to smoke, but if she's smoking a pack a day, there's a likelihood that you're going to say, well, then smoking is okay.
Because of what you see.
Because of what you see, absolutely.
Good morning, caller. You're live on Impact Houston Live. Let us hear from you. Caller, you're live on the air.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, her and the previous caller was on. It's the environment in which you grow up in. And I've been married twice, but my second marriage, I learned from my first marriage that you got to look at some environmental issues. Because if you don't look at some environmental issues, what I mean by environmental, what type of situation a person grew up in, what are their core values, and one of the discussions we had up front in my second marriage, and we've been together since '94. We've been married. We just celebrated 20 years on paper of being married, but we have to work through some things to, look beyond what love is all about, because it's more than about love. Because you don't have a relationship if you don't have trust.
Absolutely.
And so, one of the things we went into it, we put trust at the top of the relationship, because if I can't trust you, I can't love you. And so, but we have to look at some other issues. You got to look at some blended family issues too. And I have an excellent wife. I have a Proverbs 31 wife. Wow. I thank God for every day.
Amen.
But you have to look even at their siblings' relationship, how they interact with their spouses and people that they're in relationship with, to see if the person that you get involved with if there's a systematic or a generational component going on there.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you so much, caller. Catherine.
And we have she clicked the caller.
Okay, caller. We're live on the air. In fact, Houston Live.
Good morning.
I assume that the panel happens to be black. Statistically, and I happen to be black.
I don't know. Kalan look kind of Asian.
Here we go.
Over there. I don't know.
Okay.
Go ahead, Carl.
Numbers-wise, though, we are the highest percentage of unmarried as a group. And I think the previous callers have entered some factors in that may be particularly unique to us. I think we have to take special care with one another and realize that, okay, to be black in America, we have issues different than, quote-unquote, larger society. And so those unspoken expectations, he's supposed to know what to do or she's supposed to know what to do. We have to control our anger. We have to contain ourselves. And no one has the right to put another person between themselves and their issues. We need sometimes professional help with our individual selves, because the most important relationship is the one we have with ourselves.
Absolutely.
If we're twisted and maladjusted, then what we bring into a relationship
Right. So we definitely want to get to know who we are, and so if reading my book, you get to look at and answer those questions for yourself, because there's a lot of things that we don't realize and we don't think about when it comes to our upbringing and just other things that we've learned. So, for example, I'll give you some of the other topics in the book. So the first section is on expectations, and it's a whole bunch of questions so that you can find out where it is that you really are and have that conversation, because only you can know what's going to work for you and your spouse, for them in that relationship. The next thing is the second section is about money, right? Money causes a lot of folks to get upset.
But do I marry you because you have money?
Well, it's not it's not necessarily about that.
Or do I need to clean my credit up before I get married?
And you don't have to, but it's important to know how much credit. So I instead of putting other people on blast, I'll put myself on blast. So when my husband and I were dating, and we were sitting on his couch one day, and he leaned over to me just out of the blue and said, "So, exactly how much debt are you in?" Wow. And I was offended, y'all. I was like, who in the world this boy think he's going to? But then he explained to me, he said, well, if we're moving forward, I need to know what I'm getting into. Because if I'm going to be helping, if we're going to be pooling our resources and we're going to be pooling that information. I mean, he knew I went to school. I got student loans like most everybody else that went to school. And so he was like, what is it that you owe? Because if I'm going to be joining in with that, then we need to have these discussions.
Yeah.
You know, if you have a spouse, maybe you're marrying somebody who's been married before, if they got money coming out the house in alimony, or if they got children, that you need to know where your finances are. And so being able to talk about, figure out who's the spender, who's the saver in the family.
And don't be afraid to give up that power, because one of the things that women are afraid to give up that power of money. Mm-hmm. Because when you make that money, right, and you know you the spender, mm-hmm. it's okay to give it up and say, you know what, babe, I am not the check writer.
But let's flip that. Let's flip that. Let's flip that, because listen, my wife knows we're very transparent with our relationship. I'm the one that's terrible with money. Mm-hmm. I don't handle the finances.
But you don't
No. But I'm talking to fellas right now.
Okay.
Men have a problem. You say women, no. Society tells us that we're the breadwinners, that we hold the checkbook, that we're the ones that do that. You know, that this whole old school mentality. And I think that, Catherine, what a conversation needs to happen is figure out who's good at
exactly.
what.
You have to operate in your strengths.
Absolutely.
When you operate in your strengths, you can have a better partnership. Because remember, this marriage is about partnership.
But it don't make you lesser. Like
Taylor
just said, it doesn't make you a lesser man or a lesser woman.
It makes you smarter, because you know what your limitations
and whatever
are,
your
and
limitations.
you can make it happen so that you can deal with how you guys need to deal with it. I hear couples ask all the time, separate bank accounts or joint bank accounts. I say that's up to you. I can't tell you what's right for your family, but you guys need to have a discussion on how you're going to handle that moving forward. So then the next section, sex. We all know people say you have more sex before you get married.
No, the question is, I want to know what I'm getting before I get married.
Do I test drive that car before I buy that joker?
Before I buy it. That's up to you and your values.
And your values. And so the other thing comes up as a what's expected. But no, seriously, what's expected in sex? How often? What frequency? What way you do it? Where you at when you do it? I mean, you really have to have those conversations. The other piece that people have difficulty with is understanding that there may be problems associated with sex with their partner.
But and when you do that, you have to identify that, because if you don't identify it head on, mm-hmm. and then when you say I do, it's just going to make the person angry and not want to be in that relationship, because. Mm-hmm. And then some people, and that's why some people, there's a two-sided to it. Mm-hmm. And we talk real. We know we play a disclaimer at the show, but we're going to be very respectful, because some people, you have some men that say, I will wait. I'm going to wait. I'm waiting with you, baby. Mm-hmm. I'm going to wait with you. How long? I'm going to wait. We're not going to have it. But as soon as you do have it, and these are true stories, as soon as you do have it, you can't.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah,
you can't, and we got some people. We got some amens. You can't.
Right.
So when you get there, but should that person have disclosed that?
Absolutely.
And then you're setting that female up, and you know that you could not, because of high blood pressure pills, whatever it's been.
Absolutely.
And you cannot.
You definitely want to have those conversations, even beyond medication issues. You also have certain people that may have had some kind of sexual trauma, from molestation to rape or different kinds of things like that. And so if you get into
if it's a problem, though.
Absolutely.
If it's a problem.
You know, Catherine, if I can jump in,
Sure,
dive in right
go
now.
ahead.
You know, you talk about the whole, you know, your history and what you've gone through, what you've dealt with. How sensitively, or what advice can you give to our callers, to everybody that's in the studio today, about how to approach that kind of conversation? Because it is such a sensitive one.
Absolutely.
You know,
absolutely.
so many people have dealt with so much in their past.
Absolutely.
You know,
one of the things that you can definitely do, you know, one of the things I always say is that the easy conversations are fun, but the hard conversations, the difficult conversations, those are very necessary. And so we, you know, if you love someone and you're planning on building a life with them, my hope is that you're going to be gentle in approaching some of these topics anyway. I mean, you're not going in there with your gloves on ready to knock somebody out behind a topic. But I know that sometimes these are things that we just don't even think about. So if you have thoughts, you know, if you have thinking, one of the things that I do in my book is it's questions for you to ask and answer with one another, so that it's not a, oh, he trying to get in my business, or she asking me all this crazy stuff. This is just what we have, some things that we can pull.
So if we can interview to get the job,
absolutely,
and the employer is asking all these questions on why I should hire you,
absolutely,
what makes us any different?
than
We have a young adult. I love when our interns step to the mic, because you know they have all these young questions. What's happening over there today? It's her birthday.
It was yesterday.
Yesterday.
Happy belated birthday.
Go ahead, my dear.
Okay, so my question is for the millennials, and like I said, just turned 23 yesterday. Okay, and from looking in my perspective, we don't, 1990s babies, they don't want a relationship. They don't want the marriage per se, and I don't know if it's because we're all young and we're all the same age, and so girls my age, we kind of look towards an older guy, and then it doesn't work because we're looking at him like, now he want to marry me after 3 days we've been talking, and I'm not ready for that. So what? Okay, so today, you know, I'm having a little sleepover. We're gonna have girl talk. So what? I did want to bring this question to this sleepover because I knew we were gonna have this today. What can I tell them? Because we kind of had that going on. One of my friends, her family brought in an older guy, and her mom is like, well, you've been saying you wanna, you know, you've been wanting to date, but I want someone who's a little bit of my age. And also, what can you say to the younger men? Because we're looking at them like, okay, you know, I do like to date. I don't like to just sit in the dorm room and Netflix and chill. You know, I do like to go outside, and a lot of guys now don't have that, because I know, I tell Kalan all the time, my dad is a father who taught me, hey, he needs to pull out the chair for you. He needs to open the door for you.
And
we don't get that anymore.
Less. That's how my
and it's about your expectation. You have to set the standard. People will do what you allow them to do in your relationship. So if you don't say anything about it, and you just let them come over so y'all can Netflix and chill, well, then that's what y'all gonna be doing. So it's really about making sure that the boundaries are set, and you set the standard and the expectation that this is what's okay for me, not anything else.
And let's talk about this webinar, and then tell people how they can get a hold of you.
Okay.
Website, telephone number, and this webinar that you have coming up.
Sure. So I have a webinar coming up in March. It's a journey of self-discovery. So for any of you who's going through any kind of transition or change, life change, you can definitely jump in. We're going to explore some of the things that we talked about today. It's not going to be all about relationships, but it's really going to be about exploring who you are. So you can go to my website at www.catherinemukes.com and find out more information there, or register for the event there. It is a webinar, so you can do it from the comfort of your own home. You can also follow me on Facebook at CMukesLPC, and also on Twitter at TheCMukes. And so you can also reach me. I provide professional counseling services here in the Houston area, and you can reach me at 713-231-6801.
One more time.
Sure, 713-231-6801.
Hey everybody, we want to thank Ms. Catherine L. Mukes that is coming in, and the title of this segment was The Talk Before You Walk, and that don't even necessarily mean marriage. It can be interrelationships. Those asking those sensitive questions that a lot of men and females are afraid to ask, Kalan. And so as we continue this journey and everybody get prepared for Valentine's Day, hey, know that there are some questions that you need to ask your mate. And we'll be right back.